I came here to make a video that I've been wanting to do for a while, and that is because I do often get a lot of questions, especially from South Africans who want to move to South Korea. They ask me, can I move to South Korea and teach English, be able to save, be able to live my best life, and still be able to sustain myself? And the simple answer to that question is yes. Yes, you can. I'm gonna break this down from when I started to work in Korea until now, so you can be able to judge for yourself. Personally, I've been able to save, but maybe your life will be more fancier than mine, and so you won't be able to, but you be the judge. One of the things that concerns me a lot about Korea is salaries just don't increase. The pay scale has been the same for like years. Like if you go look at the EPIK pay scale, for example, on their website, it's been like that for years. You'd think that because, cost of living increases, they would at least say, okay, this year maybe we'll make the starting salary like 2.2 million or something. But no, it just stays the same, and it just does not make sense to me. I just don't get it. The same goes for Hagwons, where they don't necessarily have a pay scale that they go by each and every year, but they'd be like, we're gonna get a foreigner from overseas who doesn't know anything about Korea and give them 2 million and they'll be happy. I started working in Korea in 2017. When I started working, I was working for public school with EPIK. Now, the EPIK pay scale is very public. It's on their website if you wanna see for yourself. So basically, for someone like me who came to Korea with no teaching experience. Actually, I did have teaching experience, but I think I was too dumb at that point because I never got the letter to prove that I had teaching experience. And so I came here as somebody who has no teaching experience. I did have teaching experience. So because I didn't bring a letter, my salary started at 2 million flat. I was teaching 2 schools, so if you're teaching 2 schools, you get 100K extra. If you're teaching 3 schools, you get 150. I don't know what happens if you're teaching more than 3 schools. I won't lie, I don't know. So I was teaching 2 schools. I got 2 million, which was my salary, and an extra 100K, which was the travel allowance, they call it. And so my salary was 2.1 million at the beginning of 2017. If you submit your tax documents, you don't pay tax. They deduct about 40,000, I'm gonna say, I'm not sure, it was years ago, for health insurance, which left me with 2.60,000 won. And then from that, I would take about 60,000 won to pay for my maintenance fee. In Korea, if you live in a building with an elevator, you have to pay a bit higher of a maintenance fee. So that was about 60,000, which left me with 2 million. And then I would pay about 20,000 won for gas. And the thing about gas, though, I use a gas stove. The thing about gas is I don't really know how it works, because I've discovered that every single time, if I use it a lot, like these days I cook like a lot, then I will pay like a ridiculous amount of like maybe 5,000 won or something like that. But when I don't use it a lot, I pay more. So I'm gonna need somebody to explain that to me, because even after all these years, I'm just like, I would think that the more you use, the more you pay, but it doesn't seem to work like that. So I will pay, I didn't cook a lot in 2017. So I would pay around 20,000 won for gas, which left me with 1,980,000. Hope my math is good. And then the rest of that, I don't know where it went. I wasn't really that responsible, to be honest, back in 2017. I was eating out a lot. I was shopping on AliExpress a lot. I was just doing things out of like, I guess I felt rich. Yeah, I think I felt like I had a lot of money, and so I spent a lot of it like on things I cannot name. I did get a cell phone. Everyone around me was buying iPhones and they looked fancy and cool, and I wanted an iPhone, so I went and I got an iPhone on a contract for 2 years. And I highly advise against that. Don't do it. just don't do it. If you can keep your old phone, or maybe get your phone fixed if it's got minor issues, then just do that. Don't buy a new phone. Anyways, moving on. 2018, I am now a teacher with a year's experience. In your second year, you get an extra 100K. I still was teaching the same 2 schools, so I got an extra 100K, so I was earning 2.2. I still was not paying tax because you don't pay tax for 2 years. And so I would be left with about 2 million after everything. And yeah, I don't know where that went. But I did help build a house at home. I did get my dad a car. I did travel to Bali in 2017. I did travel to a whole lot of countries in Europe. So it's not to say that all my money went to things I don't know. Most of it did, but some of it did end up getting me things where I can look and be like, I played a role in that. That was great. Or I went to Paris. Yes, I did go to Paris. I went to Paris. That was a cool experience. So I think I learned my lesson at the end of 2018, where I was like looking in my bank account and be like, how am I living paycheck to paycheck when I earn this much money? And that's because I was mostly living my best life and not thinking about my future. Moving on to 2019, things changed slightly a little bit. So you have that base 2 million and then you get 300 extra now. I got that 100K extra because I was still teaching 2 schools. Now you pay tax. What they did with me is they paid me my full salary the whole year, even though I was supposed to pay tax. And then they deducted everything at the end. And you don't want that. I would rather they take little by little every single month so I don't feel it than to say, oh, by the way, you need to pay 600,000 won for tax. Because then you feel every single cent coming out of your paycheck. I think I was able to save at least 1.2 million won every single month because I had a goal, and I think this helps a lot. So what I would do is I would calculate all my deductions every single month and see how much money I need to pay, and then I would separate money for food and then have a little bit of money for, like, you know, living my best life, because you don't want to restrict yourself too much. And I would have a saving goal. So as soon as my salary comes in, I immediately take all of that money that I wanted to save and put it into my savings account and then live on the rest of the money. After all the deductions, I would be left with around 2.2, and I would try to save at least 1.2 million to 1.5. So yes, you can save and live your best life. And my best advice would be to save, try to save from the beginning, even if it's just 100 or 200, it makes a whole lot of difference in the end, which was not how I did things. So after that, I came into the Hagwon system, where life is a little bit exciting and tricky. First of all, I haven't worked full-time since I left EPIK. I just did not want to sit in the same place for 8 hours. I'm weird like that. I'm just like, instead of sitting in the same place for 8 hours, I would rather be in a cafe making a video, or I would rather be taking a walk in the park. I don't care, just don't. So I get paid hourly, and so it depends on how many hours I work in a day, and I get paid according to that. The only major disadvantage with that is that nobody pays for my housing. When I used to work for EPIK, I got my rent was sorted, so I didn't have to worry about that. But when I transitioned into Hagwon, and not only in Hagwon, but getting paid like hourly, then they don't pay for my housing. And so I had to secure my own apartment myself and pay my own rent myself, which, to be honest, I do not mind, because I had to change jobs a lot of times, and one thing that has been stable was my home. So I would be like, you know what, I'm done with this place, I'm changing this job, I'm going to that one, but then I know I don't have to move, so it kind of reduces the stress significantly. I pay for my own rent, which is about 400,000 won. I had to pay 5 million deposit, which makes zero sense. Like, I don't get it. Because in South Africa, when you move into an apartment, you pay your rent and then you pay your 1 month's rent as deposit. So you get that back when you're done. But in Korea, you pay 5 million won as a deposit and then you pay your monthly rent. Salary varies every single month, depends on how many hours I've worked in each month. And the largest paycheck I've gotten was about 4.2 million won. And one major advantage for me about working part-time or getting paid by the hour is nobody can take advantage of me in terms of like deciding to give me extra hours just because they can, which happens a lot in a Hagwon. They know that if they decide that they're gonna give me like 26 hours this week, then they have to pay me for all those 26 hours. They can't just chop and change my schedule as they please. I've been able to save, I think since last year, I have been able to save at least about 50 to 60% of my salary, mainly because I don't have a lot of bills and I try to like monitor my spending so I know where my money goes. And as you know, I'm going back to university, so I've been trying to save for school, which was a major motivation towards making sure that I save. And I think that helped me a lot to know that I'm saving towards something. Otherwise, you also want to think about things like retirement. You also want to think about things like making sure that whenever you don't have a job that you'll be fine. And so you need to be very financially responsible if you work hourly, even if you work in a public school, because some of us don't get pension at the end of our contracts. And because of that, so everything lies onto you. Whereas if you're from the USA, you get your pension back. And so, when you quit Korea and you leave, you're gonna get your severance pay, you're gonna get your pension. You're gonna have a lot of money, whereas some of us don't get that. So in conclusion, I'd say yes, you can work, save, spoil yourself, and live your best life. If you can balance fun and responsibility, then you are winning. All right, that's it. And I'll see you on the next video.